Welcome. Good day, everybody. How is everybody in my Facebook and YouTube land and family doing? I am so glad to be back with you all. Welcome back into our virtual living room of Under His Construction Talk Show. I am your host, Cassandra Marie, and we are so glad to have you back with us. And we pray that we will purposely and intentionally say something today that will inspire your daily living. Through boldness and transparent conversation, it is truly our heartfelt intention that we sharpen each other, that we build each other up. And that's why we invite people to this platform that is having a real walk with Christ and who is having to have real talk. So it is time to tell a friend that we are here and we are ready to go under his construction.
Work on me, fix everything, make me over head to toe if necessary. Moving forward kind of frightens me, but it's the only way to get the best out of my life. So I try to strip the mask off, try my best to release all of me to this process of newness, reinvention and grooming. The power within, I might win, I just might win. I am under
How to do for me, being who I need to be. Thank you all for joining us back in the virtual living room of Under His Construction. I am so glad to have you back here for another episode. And we listen, our algorithm wants to thank you all and ask you all to click share, click like, join us with your comments, share this page, algorithm, and I will be so thankful and grateful for you doing that. Click like, click share, and share your comments. Thank you all so much for joining us with your questions and your comments, because even if you don't see this today, even whatever day you are seeing this, we appreciate you so much, so much. Listen, we have been rocking and rolling for the past 8 weeks with our truth series. We've been talking all types of truth up in here. So just sit back and enjoy the video of our truth series.
Under His Construction presents the Truth Series, starting April 16th, 2023. What is it about the truth, and why is it so scary to so many? Yet it's the very principle that John says will set us free. 32. Join our host, Cassandra Marie, as she takes us on an informational, bold, and transformational journey on a pathway of truths, such as the spirit of judgment, the truth about tithes and offerings, truth about food, our body, our temple, truth about righteousness and fear, the truth about sin and Satan, about his dwelling place, the truth about vows and commitments, and so many more. The world says you can't handle the truth, but we're going to remind the world that all things are possible with God. So don't miss out on the Truth Series on April 16th at 6 p.m. right here on YouTube and Facebook Live. Join in on the truth and be set free right here on Under His Construction Talk Show.
And yes, we have did just that. The world talking about you can't handle the truth, but we have did just that to remind the world that all things are possible through God. We can handle the truth. And today we are here to do just that. Talk about what is the truth and why is it so frightening for others, and yet some people can embrace it. So we have invited my sister and my friend, psychotherapist and life coach Natalie Warren, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, Natalie, to the virtual living room.
Oh
How
my
are
gosh.
you, sis?
I am good. Thank you for having me. What a pleasure to be here and to talk about truth. I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
Don't we need more of it though? Don't we need more of it?
Right. Right.
I know I need more of it in my life. And it was a time where it was hard for me to tell it. It was a time for me, it was a time where it was hard for me to receive it. And I just didn't care for it too much. I really
Right.
didn't. But last night I got some bit of sad news. We are in our third season, and we had a guest on this show, um, Rashonda Burnett. She came on here in December 4th, and we talked about being fearfully and wonderfully made. Well, I got news that Rashonda has gained her wings. She lived with five different cancers, everything from breast cancer, lung cancer, brain cancer. And she has gained her wings and she is with the Lord right now. So if you can all just have a moment of silence real quick for Rashonda. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Lord, we thank you for the life of Rashonda Barnett. We will be posting contact information, Cash App, if you would like to donate anything to the family of Rashonda Barnett. That will go up on my Facebook page later on today or tomorrow morning. So Rashonda lived by her truth. She wasn't ashamed of her truth. She talked about it with boldness, and she believed God, will heal her. So I imagine he didn't heal her in this body, and she got a different type of body and live in her truth that what she lives today. So I'm so glad I was able to meet her, and she had such a beautiful spirit, but that woman lived her truth. But so let's get into it, Natalie, a little bit. Let's just jump into this bold conversation. And we bold here on Under His Construction. We are bold up here. So let's first, if we could define truth, if we could, I don't even know if you can put this in a box, but if we had to say, what is truth? How would you describe truth?
Ooh, that's a big one.
It's loaded, right? If you could just a little bit.
Yeah, to know what comes to me is just to know what is. To know what is, if I simplified what I find truth is, or yeah,
Mhm.
to know what is, sums it up for me, and knowing that is truth, right? So just to know what is.
To know what it is. I read one definition where it said truth is timeless. I said,
Mm,
that's pretty interesting. I said, that's pretty interesting that truth is timeless. Um, because it made sense that it would be timeless because my truth as a child, I may learn about it as an adult.
mhm.
I may learn about it as an adult and have to embrace it as an adult, but yes, it's a childhood truth.
Right, right,
So it kind of journeyed with me through time. Is that
right.
the type of timeless that we may be referring to?
I certainly can see that. I know there are some truths that never change. They go through time, through generations, because it's just a foundational truth. So I certainly could see the word timeless.
Hmm. But it also said the one thing truth could not be, is faithful. It can never be faithfulness. Why you
Hmm.
think truth could never be faithfulness?
That's an interesting concept. So this idea that truth can't be faithfulness.
Yes.
Why is that? Uh, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I mean, when I think of faithfulness, I think ultimately of the one who is the faithful one, which is God, right? So
Right.
if I were to look at it from that perspective, he is not time, right? He's out of time, he's in eternity. So that would be my logic behind that, but I've never heard of it described that way.
Yeah, because you think about God is faithfulness. He is the truth. His word is faithful.
Hmm.
So how could if truth to me could it be different in the hands of the person? What's true to you could not be true for me? Or
I
is there a universal truth?
Oh, I let's say I think it's both. I think there are some universal truths, right? Some you call them universal laws or principles that are truths. But then you're right. There's some things that are personal around truth, and those are those internal truths that we know for ourselves. And so that very well can be different and very unique from person to person.
So there's a will attached to truth. It sounds
Mm.
like. It sounds like
Yes,
there are. Mm.
yes.
So
You
there,
you. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just saying there's a will attached to truth.
Right, a willingness to accept or embrace it or reject it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm. So how does truth discipline us?
Oh, all these great questions. Let's think. Truth will discipline me. Let me think on a personal level. When I know a truth, I can and I hold that truth as my truth, right? Because something can be true
Mhm.
and I still don't hold it as true. It can cause me to be disciplined. Like a truth of mine right now is my health is important. And it is true that I want to live out the life that I know God has for me. So it disciplines me to do some things, right? Some things like eat right, like exercise, like get proper rest. It creates a discipline because I know it to be a truth for me. Yeah.
And that may be why some people is frightening to some people because they're not ready to embrace that level of truth.
Absolutely.
And it depends on how deep that truth is. I could see why it would be terribly frightening. It may be necessary, but yet so very frightening. Some
Absolutely.
because that truth is just so it may be very ugly. You take molestation or something, or
Mhm.
rape, or something, a sexual violation or something like that. It may be necessary for you to confront, or necessary for you to hear, for your healing process, for your wellness, but it's just so frightening to look at.
Right, right.
To look at.
Absolutely. Because we can live in denial. Now I'm hearing you kind of going with, yeah, sometimes the truth we don't want to face because it could be painful, it could be traumatic. And so we could live in a state of denial or avoidance. Like those are all human behaviors that we engage in. And we don't want to face that truth. So, absolutely, we can talk about it because I definitely agree.
Hmm. But yet, there's a certain truth. Is there a certain truth that can shape and form our character as well?
Yes, yes, I agree. Yes, the truth can change us, transform us, shape our character. Absolutely. I see you're already thinking about all these dynamics of truth. I can
Yeah,
see your wheels turning.
this is what we do here. We get down to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking about it with our character. How does truth form our character? For a person that may come to you for services, how would you share in the truth, or they come to you and share a truth about themselves? How would that form or shape the character that's maybe hidden in them, or maybe need to be released, or something like that?
Yes, absolutely. I think sometimes they actually are standing on a non-truth, or I don't know if we're going to call them lies or illusions on here, but
Go ahead and call
sometimes
them what they need to be called. Lies. Go ahead.
sometimes we're standing on a lie or an illusion that we based our character on, and getting insight into who you really are. Now I can talk about that truth. And when someone
Hmm.
finds out who they really are, and it is not what they have, it's not what they've done, it is not what they've accomplished, it frees them. That truth certainly can free them and change their character. Absolutely.
Now, is that what people like to say? This is my truth.
Mm,
Because I hear a lot of that in and just in the world today. This is my truth. This is my truth. And it almost sounds like it's this declaration of liberation or something. And I try to understand what is my truth and what does it do for that person. Now, when I say my truth, I'm gonna take this quote. I heard this spoken truth, I like to call it. It
Okay.
says, what is this? He says, okay, I'm at the point in my life right now. I don't have to get anybody's, um, I don't have to get even with anybody. You know why? Because the people I would have to get even with, I would have to back up to do it. So what I realize is I would have to change the people I argue with. That is that person's truth.
Wow.
Somehow that person has came into the acknowledgement of or the awareness of that truth, right?
Right.
So they will say, this is my truth. So I'm trying to understand or help other people understand, what does that do for us when we make these declarations of my truth. I heard a cousin say, uh, a relative say, well, this is my truth. This is my truth. She very angrily said, this is my truth. And I'm like, wow, what does that do for that person? So what are
Mm.
people saying, Natalie, when they make this strong declaration of my truth?
Well, I think you gave a great example of that, where people are saying, this is what I choose to believe at this moment. This is what's in my awareness at this moment. And the way you describe that example is people try to hold on to it like no one is taking it from me. So that
Mm-hmm.
makes me think about like how many times people perhaps have felt like their truth hasn't been valued, it hasn't been heard, it
Mm,
hasn't been appreciated, right? That they find the
mm,
need to want to hold on or fight for what they believe to be true. Um, and so it comes from
that's
potentially
good.
that place. And I
Mm,
see it in many ways, but definitely, just this idea of you're going to hear me, you're going to accept that this is my truth for this moment. This is my awareness.
mm. So that's what they resolve to. They resolve to, I want you to hear me.
Mhm.
I want you to hear me. Even if that truth is inappropriate, maybe,
Right,
or whatever that truth may be. It may be disgusting, or whatever that to the hearer anyway. That truth, whatever that truth is, you're gonna resolve to hearing what my truth is. Is that
right.
the end goal for that person? Is that what that person resolved to?
I believe so, especially the example that you gave. And I also believe that I have to accept that that's their truth, right? It's not my
Mhm.
truth, it's not my reality, but that's where they are at that moment. And that is also truth, right? And so, truth in the way we're using it is just their way of seeing things, their experiences, their emotions, their perspective, which another may have a different perspective, but that is another way of describing that particular type of truth.
And how dangerous is it when people begin to weaponize truth against other people instead of using truth as an empowerment tool or a resource?
Good question. I think the way that we're describing it in this example is that it closes off your perspective on seeing someone else's truth or seeing someone else's perspective. And
Mm,
so our lenses can be distorted, so to speak, if we are in that space. And oftentimes, if it's coming from that space that we're describing, the person can be defensive, right? Because they're holding on and valuing that so much that they may become defensive if anyone even challenges them or questions them. They may become defensive. So it can leave you in that space.
a collision, I suppose, yeah. So when we talk about, now these are all truths of the world, but we know Jesus says that he is the truth. So we talk about biblical truth. So I see how truth could be a wide range, very wide. You have worldly truth. I guess you have humanity and worldly truth is probably the same. I'm not sure. Is it the same? Humanity and worldly truth? Let me ask you.
Hmm. Humanity and worldly truth. I would think so. I mean, I think you're speaking of just like universal truths that are going throughout the
Mhm.
world, right? Like no matter what we speak or what we believe, these are truth. I would
Be-
say so.
Yeah, because biblical truth we know is God's word. We
Right.
know Jesus said in John 14 that he is the way, he is the truth, he is the life. To me, so these other truths seem to provide some type of temporary liberation. I don't know, whereas biblical truth seem to provide eternal salvation because that's what Jesus is, right?
Right.
So there's two different types of truth that are very different, you know. So when we look at those type of truths, I'm just trying to give people an understanding, and you help me do this when we approach truth. What is the best way of doing that for a person who's scared of truth? What would be the best way for them to approach truth if they're definitely afraid of truth?
Okay. Wow. Good question. And I think we're talking about different types of truth. So are we speaking of if they're afraid of biblical truth or are they afraid of their internal truth? Because I can talk about
Well, let's
internal
do
truth.
let's do one at a time. So,
Okay.
if you're doing some personal development, truth, you're dealing with some self truth, and you're frightened, you're definitely afraid of those type of truth. What would be the best way of approaching those type of truths? Say you
Okay.
have mental health issues, and you're definitely afraid of approaching those truths. Let's deal with that first, and then we'll deal with the biblical side.
Okay, perfect. No, I just want to make sure I give you clarity.
Okay.
So I have a thought before we talk about mental health, but what I do believe is that everyone knows the truth. The truth is within you, right? You know the truth.
Right.
And what happens is that anytime a person is in conflict with what they know to be true, it creates inner conflict, right? Inner conflict where
Right.
someone may say, I really am not sure what I'm supposed to do. And then they start to feel overwhelmed or stressed or anxious, sometimes even depressed. Sometimes it is because we're fighting against the truth, something that we know. Let me give an example. In every relationship I've ever been in, I always knew those persons were not for me. I knew it. I knew it. And I
Mhm.
can remember times where I would be
Mhm.
praying, Lord, please, please let him be the husband, Lord. Please let him come on, Lord. Did you say something today? Like all of those things. But one of my prayers, and I'm giving an example of truth, one of my prayers was when I met my husband, I would recognize him. That was my prayer. I would recognize him. And the moment that I saw him, I believe truth, right? It came into my being because I knew it was him. And not one time did I ever pray to God and ask him, was he my husband? I'm saying
Mhm.
that as an example of internal conflict, right? The internal conflict that I was experiencing with those relationships was because I was trying to fight against what I knew to be true. And so
Mm.
sometimes that
Mm.
happens and it creates that personal conflict. How do you address that? You've got to be willing to take off the blinders. You got to be willing to sit with yourself. You got to be willing to listen to what your emotions are trying to tell you. Sometimes that frustration is telling you to go in a different direction, but you're fighting against
Mm.
it, right? Because we like to hold on to what's familiar. So that is
Mm.
an example of, on a personal level, how to embrace the truth. And I had to. I remember God told me there was a person I was dating at the time. He said he's good for you, but he's good to you, but he's not good for you. And that was a
Mhm.
truth. I mean, it was a hard truth. I had been with him for 6.5 years at that point. But I knew that that was truth. And so embracing the truth and allowing yourself permission to do that. Now let's talk about some biblical truths, right? How do we embrace
Mm.
those? Because you asked me about that. You know what? I have been through a process and I've learned sometimes what we find to hold as true from biblical perspectives is just religion. It ain't true.
Mm.
It's just something that man has taught and said, and we just believed and never questioned. So sometimes that can be scary because that means you got to let go of stuff that you thought was true. Like, I thought it was true I was supposed to wash my clothes on Saturday mornings. Like, I thought that was true. Wasn't that what we were supposed to do? Right. But maybe you can watch them on another day of the week and that's okay too. Right. But sometimes questioning those truths as a process when you're really afraid of asking yourself, why is it that I believe this? And who taught me this? And is this what really
Mm,
God's intention is? And sometimes that helps with those biblical truths.
mm, mm. Because I do see how that could be, because there was some truth that I believe biblically because it was taught to me that way. But then as I matured in Christ, I began to question those what I thought was truth. And really when I begin to learn from myself, that's why the word says study yourself approved. So you would know what the truth is for yourself. Just
Right.
and also just because somebody says a thing doesn't make it true. Just because a
Right.
pastor stands up there and says something doesn't make it true. It's in the Bible. If it's written in this book, makes it true. Not because a man or woman stands in front of you makes it true. Let me be clear
Right.
on that. But when you're young in the Lord and doesn't really and impressionable and you're hurt and you're desperate and you're really desperate looking for something and you're trusting, you want to be so trusting, and you have these people who say we care about you. And this is
Right.
what upsets me the most about the church. And people come in so broken and so desperate, and they're looking, they're like a little baby bird, and they come in broken and desperate. And you have certain people who will manipulate those situations and take advantage of those situations and give people that's not thus saith the Lord.
Right.
That's not thus saith the Lord. Instead, it's thus saith Bob, or thus saith Jeffrey, or
Right.
thus saith Malachi, or whoever. But it's not thus saith the Lord. And they will put on this show like it's the truth, and it's not God's truth.
Right.
And that person doesn't know to go study themselves approved. So
Right.
they take this person's word as the truth.
Right.
That's what scares me the most. And that's maybe that's why the Lord gave me this topic or even this series to do on the show. So if I can be intentional and purposeful about saying anything today, anything, please hear me. I don't care what church you sit in on Sunday morning, under what voice, under what service. Please go back and study yourself approved.
Right.
Study that word for yourself. I'm not saying your pastor or woman of God is a liar. I'm just saying study yourself approved, because that way God can speak to you for yourself. God is no respecter of person, and He is not going to love that man of God no more than He loves you.
That's the truth, right? That's the truth.
That is the truth, right?
Right.
And being in theology school and being taught by Dr. Michael Woods, shout out to Dr. Woods for ministry with excellence. That is what I have been trained to think, that God loves us all the same. Don't get impressed by people with letters behind their names.
Right.
God loves us all the same, and He will speak to you the same way He speaks to anybody else.
Right.
So study yourself. You spend time with the Lord and build that relationship with Him. You will hear His voice. The same way, because we all would have to do that, right? Isn't that how relationships is built? How is truth?
Absolutely.
So when we talk about that, let's lead into this question: how is truth developed to even know that you're hearing the truth?
Right, right. No, I think you said it. I mean, if we're talking about from a biblical perspective, you talked about studying and finding out. For me, it was about finding out the attributes and character of God.
Mm-hmm.
because then I can line everything else up with that, right? If I know
Mm-hmm.
someone's character and I know their attributes, they're not going to do anything outside of that. And surely
Mm-hmm.
that's what God is. And so that's a way to find that truth, learn about his character and his nature, and lining things up with that will support it. But sometimes, we have to read to find truth. Sometimes, even if we think about from a historical perspective, we didn't get a lot of stuff. Some stuff from history was left out of textbooks and left out of
Mm-hmm.
school lessons. And sometimes it requires us to get outside of our comfort zone and pick up a book and read and find out. I took a class in college about the religions of the world. I wanted to understand about all religions, just to have a concept and an understanding. But it was for me getting out of what I knew to find out
Mm-hmm.
and understand and come from a place of understanding than a place of judgment. I wanted to do that intentionally. And so those are ways to do that.
Yeah, sounds like my apologetics class. My apologetics class take me there. But so how does a person who is dealing with, say, procrastination, is procrastination a form of delaying the truth?
That's a good question. There can be a sense of avoidance with procrastination. So I believe this: people procrastinate for three reasons. We procrastinate because we don't want to do something. Okay, tell the truth. You don't want to do it. Second reason is you procrastinate because you don't know how to do it. You procrastinate because you
Mm-hmm.
don't know how. Third reason we procrastinate is because we don't have the resources to do it. We don't have what we
Mm-hmm.
need to do something. And so sometimes we can be in denial about any or all three of those. And it could be that we procrastinate because we don't want to face the truth, right? The truth might be, I don't know what I'm doing. So instead of me saying that, I might just not do it. And that way, if I get an F on the test, then I can say, well, I didn't study, right? I didn't even try.
That is so true. But with all this, we're in the information system. We're in the information world, right? So for me to say, I don't know, to me is such a cop out because you can always get information on anything, on anything.
Right.
If I wanted to learn how to sew curtains, if I had a bare window and somebody said, well, if there was a law saying our windows must be covered or you're getting
Mhm.
arrested, right? And they came to my door and said, why your windows are not arrested? And I said, well, I don't know how to make curtains. Well, there's an information system out here where you can get information on anything. You can learn how to do just about anything out here. You can at least get information on it. You can
Right.
get information on it. So to me, we're in a system where that kind of removes excuses for some things.
Hmm.
Would you agree? Like we're almost in a place. We're in an information age. We're in this global information age where we could. So yes, it's like you can always remove that excuse. So truth is just something is it's such a it could be a weight, but for me, as the more I embrace truth, the lighter it becomes. Now, it has been times where a heavier truth has hit me, and even when it hits me and it brings tears to my eyes, still at the same time, it's something very liberating about that.
Right.
It's so I'm trying to what can we do to help people or to show people that it's not as frightening as you may believe it to be.
No, that's a good question. I mean, what we have to understand about fear, since this is kind of what you're talking about with acceptance of
Mhm.
truth, the brain, if we talk about it from a psychological perspective, the brain can perceive something as a threat when it's really not a threat, right?
Mhm.
So sometimes embracing this truth, whatever that might be for us, it can feel like a threat to our brain. And so that feels overwhelming,
That's good.
right?
Mhm.
It feels overwhelming, like, oh, I don't know if I'll do this, or what will happen if I accept this or I embrace this. And that is what we're afraid of. It's not actually sometimes the truth, it's this idea that our brain thinks it's a threat. So, how do we address that? We have to help our brains by letting our brain know there's no real threat here, right? There is no bear, there's no tiger, my life is not in danger. I'm embracing something that a part of me may not want to embrace, but it also can be very helpful because, like you said, it also can be very freeing. So it's like getting on that roller coaster. You know how you're afraid to get on the roller coaster, and then after you get off the roller coaster, you want to do it again. You're like, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah,
I want to do that again.
yeah, yeah,
It's that
yeah.
idea that once you start to embrace this truth, then you start to feel the liberation of it and realize, wow, this isn't so bad. But it takes us kind of stepping out on it and embracing it for us to see that.
I like that. I like that. That is so true. Like, and fear can freeze us up. You think something. It does when I go to the doctor's office. They tell me I have to have a certain medical procedure. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
I
Right,
think it's gonna hurt.
right,
And I've tried everything to get out of it. And they like until they say I have to have it done, I'm trying to get out of it.
right.
And I just did that this past admittance when I was in the hospital. They was telling me, "Oh, we really think you should get this done." I was like, "Well, is it man? Is it necessary? Like, can we work around this?" Because it sounded so painful. It sounded
Mm,
so fear could definitely freeze us up where I will want to go the long way around. Because
right.
my head told me it was gonna hurt. Well, in actuality, had I went through it might not have been that bad.
Right,
It just
right.
may not have been that bad. So how
Right.
do we move past fear and into courage
Mm,
to actually get the outcome that we need, the manifestation that we need?
right, right. I will say this, courage is a muscle. It doesn't strengthen unless you use it. All right. Courage is a
Mm,
muscle. It doesn't strengthen unless you use it. So, how do we use it with overcoming fear? I recognize that fear is a normal, natural thing. That's one, first and foremost. It's normal and it's natural. If you didn't have fear, we would walk out in front of cars in the street, right? We would place our hand on a
mhm,
hot stove. It is a adaptive feature of the brain. We need it for survival. However,
mm,
we also don't need it though to protect us from everything. And so while I might
mm,
need it to help me to cross the street, I don't always need it for me to do something to stand in courage. I can actually take
mm,
the fear and use that fear as motivation to support me to be courageous. And that is a great tool because sometimes people, I think we believe that we're going to have courage without fear, but actually,
mm.
courage is doing something in the presence of fear.
Oh, that is so good. I never saw that perspective with fear. That is so good. That
Right,
is good. So fear is necessary. It's necessary in the proper, so the way we use it is necessary in the presence of courage. It motivates us to have courage.
right,
It's what
right,
motivates us because we can't have courage without something motivating us. So because how you what's gonna say, hey, you need courage.
right, right, right.
Something
Absolutely.
tells us we need courage, like a message is sent saying you
Right,
need some courage over here. And that's the fear that sends the message.
right.
Is that how it works?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you understand that, it becomes a mindset shift, right? That's
Yeah.
a way to do it. Yep. Exactly.
Wow. Wow. So when someone is intimidated by something or yeah, when they're intimidated by something, um, is that also a form of fear? Intimidation?
It depends. It depends. Intimidation, obviously, if it's coming from an external source, like say, for instance, you're intimidated by your boss, right? Maybe there's some harassment, right? That certainly can be a
Mhm.
different type of intimidation. So it depends on the level of intimidation or how, but it could be, right? It could feel very similar to what we were expressing about fear. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. And these are all truth. We are talking about why truth is so frightening. Just a recap. We're talking about why people may run from truth because truth can perceive to be so frightening, and that may be their truth. So these are some of the things we're talking about, and fear could be one of them. And
Right.
fear could be one of them. Wow, this is really great. This is really great, Daddy. I see how you got that second win, girl. So when we're dealing with truth and we're dealing with fear and all these things, so why is it? So I guess people who now embrace their truth has worked through these things, or they just have more courage now.
Good question. Probably both, I would say. So, those who are, let's just say this, we're all on a different part of this journey, right? Let's just say it this
Mhm.
way. Some people are not even aware that there is a truth, right? Their truth
Mhm.
is maybe not evolved. Then there's some that know there's a truth and they haven't embraced it yet. And then there are those who are aware of the truth and standing in truth and walking in truth. So we're all at one place or another. And I say that to say there's no judgment about where you find yourself right now, right?
Right.
Find yourself right now because there's some things that are in my truth and in my awareness, but it's not in some areas of my life. I still have some areas to grow in. But your question was around just what do we do or how do we get there, right? I think that was your
Right.
question. Okay. How do we get there? I say many ways. I don't think there's one way to get to a place of truth. Sometimes
Mhm.
the truth is so blaring in your face, you can't ignore it anymore. And I know there
Mhm.
were some of those moments, right, where it was like, here. And by human nature, we change either by choice or by force.
Mm. Mm.
And if we were honest, most of the time we change by force, right? We're not
Mhm.
trying to change. It's something that's causing us to change.
Right.
The, and so that's one of the ways that we embrace truth. Sometimes it's by force. But also, I know the loving kindness of God can certainly support us into coming into truth. And He does it in such a phenomenal, intricate way that He reaches us on a very individual, personal level to through His loving kindness to bring us into truth. And then some people seek it. We have
Mhm.
people who seek truth. And I remember days praying, God, show me the truth. I want to know
Mm.
the truth. And I went through
Mhm.
a season, and this was a hard season, where everything that I knew to be true, God was
Mm.
shaking up everything. And I questioned everything in my life. And it was a scary place. So I'm speaking to even those who maybe experience that type of truth. It was scary because even the people that I knew and loved, I was afraid I might lose them as I was
Mm.
embracing what now God was saying to be true. So there are many ways to get there. I guess that's the long answer to the short answer. There are many ways to get there.
Okay. That's good too. So I just hope we are saying something here today that can help somebody, embrace their truth or get closer to embracing their truth and not running from in the other direction from their
Mhm.
truth because I believe it's more dangerous or more hurtful to run from your truth rather than embrace it. Especially when it comes to God's truth. God will always love you and he wants you to embrace him as the truth because he is the truth.
Right.
Natalie, I just want to thank you so much for being on our platform today. I want to give you an opportunity to share with us what you have upcoming. You have some retreats and stuff. I hear you guys are going to Bali. You are taking some women to Bali, which is now closed, but you got to tell us about what's coming up in 2024. What's going on?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity for being here. First and foremost, I so value you. But yes, I have the opportunity to take women on an experience of their lifetimes to really support them to have personal wellness and spiritual wellness. And so 2024 retreats are getting ready to launch. I'm super excited that I get to take women on a journey there, and we're going international. We do international retreats. And then I have a membership program and platform for women who want to sustain healthy habits for mind, body, and spirit. And it's Whole Women for Wellness. It's a membership community to really give you the support and the connection to do that. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much for being here today. And I value you as well. I always have. I met Natalie back in Atlanta, Georgia. I
Yay.
think it was 2017, 18,
17
something
or
like that.
18. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. and we have pretty much stayed in touch all this
Yes.
time. I've always kept an eye on her, and she's doing wonderful things. And God is using her in such a mighty, mighty way. So don't go anywhere, Natalie. So once again, I love you, sis, with the love of
Love
God.
you
And
too.
listen, you all, thank you so, so much for rocking with us with this 8-part truth series. Yes, we have enjoyed it. I pray you all have enjoyed it. You can go up on our YouTube and subscribe to us. You can replay any part of this truth series. We will also be putting up replays of the Truth series in the month of August so you can enjoy them at any point and at any time. So please subscribe to us on YouTube. Also, I am your event MC. I am your host. I host all type of events. I am available for your memorable events, weddings, conference, anniversaries, birthday, all types of events where you believe the Lord is doing great things for you. I am available to host your event or MC your event. Just call that number up there, or you can email me, and we can work it out, and I will be there to host your memorable event. Once again, because I am a woman under construction, the book is still selling on Amazon for the low price of $13.99. You can get your copy today. A story of self-discovery, deliverance, and restoration and salvation. It's a great story, an inspiring story, and a story of encouragement that you would just be it's a great gift for anybody, because I am a woman under construction, i.e., under his construction, the talk show. So the information page is up there as well. All our contact information will be there. We under his construction is a talk show of empowerment, enlightenment, encouragement. Our email and contact information is there. We are always here to serve. We are God's humble servant, always willing to do His work here for you. Now, listen, we do not do all of this talking about the Lord and serving the Lord without offering you to salvation. As we talked about his truth, I was reminded today in John 14, that because of Jesus, God is both, Jesus is both God and man. And he gives his invitation to heaven, as he himself is the point of entry. And he became that point of entry on Calvary's cross through his blood and through his own life. By uniting our lives with Jesus' life and becoming followers of his, we reunited with God. So trust Jesus and take him as your father, and with all his benefits and becoming God's child, you will experience him as your father. So in doing that, accept him as your father today. He would love to offer, salvation to you. But listen, when he says he stand at the door and knock, the door doesn't open from both sides. The door opens from your side. You have to open the door from your side, because God is not a bully. He's a gentleman. Open the door from your side, and he would love to come right on in, and he will take you right as your father, and he will take you right as your son, and he will forgive you, and you'll be a child of his, belong to him, and listen, and be joint heirs. He would love for you to be part of the kingdom family, and all of heaven will rejoice, and we will rejoice with you. So if you have done that today, there is a number you could text right there, 209-7922. We will pray with you. We will pray with you, and we will connect you, do our best to connect you with a local church or a body or someone who could take you to your next step. and salvation. So, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for rocking with us. Continue to rock with us here under His construction. Listen, we love you here. We love you, and it's just nothing you can do about it. That's it. That's it. So thank you once again for being here on Under His Construction.
Work on me, fix everything, make me over head to toe if necessary. Moving forward kind of frightens me, but it's the only way to get the best out of my life. So